An actor and a stuntman who are both past their prime try to remain relevant in late 1960s era Hollywood. Sound cool? Because I'm here to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from 2019. So, as I've said many times before, I watched mostly horror films for like an 8-year period. It was crazy. So lately I've been enjoying, trying to catch up with all the non-horror stuff that I've missed out on. I've also been reminded recently of how amazing Quentin Tarantino's films are. I watched Kill Bill Part 2 for the first time just a few months ago, and it absolutely blew my mind. It was months ago. I'm still thinking about it all the time. And Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Basterds are two of my all-time favorite films, and I certainly didn't expect Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to compete, but it totally does, in my opinion. So yeah, this is Quentin Tarantino's 10th film, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie. But it's Tarantino we're talking about, so we also get a ton of other familiar faces. People like Kurt Russell, Austin Butler, Bruce Dern, Dakota Fanning, Al Pacino, Sydney Sweeney. I could fucking go on. I will cut to the chase. I absolutely loved this film, and I'm really kicking myself for not watching it a lot sooner. So, in true Tarantino fashion, there are a few parallel storylines here, but the two main characters really are Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. Rick is an actor, mostly known for a Western TV show like a decade or so prior. He wants to remain in the spotlight, but things in Hollywood are changing around this time. They would call it the end of an era, and he feels like maybe the best years of his career are behind him. Cliff has been his stunt double for a number of years at this point, and they became pretty good friends. Rick is more high-strung, which is, understandable given his worries, but he seems like a pretty alright dude, I would say. Cliff, on the other hand, lives life day to day and doesn't seem to worry about the future whatsoever. His stuntman career is, tapered off in recent years, possibly due to the fact that he may have killed his former wife. You don't ever get to know if he did or not, but he wasn't found guilty of it. That said, his reputation has definitely suffered in the industry. Most of, if not all of the work that he's gotten in recent years was through working for Rick. He even refers to himself as Rick's gopher, but he also says that it's fine because he likes Rick and he likes working for him. I should state at this point that this review will contain probably some spoilers. Normally I don't do that, but this film is 5 years old, and there's a few things that I wanted to give my opinion on, and I think I would have to include a spoiler or two in order to do so. And Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate, who was famous for being a young actress who was one of the people killed by Charles Manson's cult. Her story arc is quite a bit smaller than Rick and Cliff's, but she's still one of the main characters here. And one of the coolest aspects of this film, in my opinion at least, is that it blends history with fiction. If the title didn't kind of give that away, it's cool. To me, I consider it kind of like an alternate reality. Instead of being targeted by Manson's cult, they go for Rick Dalton instead, who lives right next door to Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski. I didn't anticipate this at all, and I just think that it was brilliant. Tarantino, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, is a true genius. And I think that my favorite aspects of Quentin Tarantino's filmmaking is his storytelling. Almost everything he does just comes off to me as just so epic. He might make you wait quite a long time for, certain scenes, but the payoff is always just so fucking worth it. This film is 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I did not want it to end. I was completely satisfied by the ending, and what a goddamn ending it was. I'm not even going to talk about it. So awesome. Probably one of my favorite endings to a film I've seen in years, maybe ever. Now comes a major spoiler, so if you haven't seen this yet, you might want to stop watching this review right now. As I said, the Manson family has decided to target Rick Dalton's house. It was pretty random, however. They didn't actually know that he lived there. So Rick is out back in his swimming pool listening to music. His new wife Francesca's in the bedroom sleeping, and Cliff is tripping on acid in the living room with his dog Brandy. So, Cliff is definitely vulnerable because of the acid, but luckily for him, he very much knows how to handle himself, and so does Brandy. You'll see what I mean. And I should probably mention that Rick or not Rick, but Cliff was a former war hero. I can't remember if he was. I can't remember what era. I don't know. I'm no expert on American history. I don't know what war he was in or when he was in the military, but he was, and so he's got all that training, as a background. And right as he is about to feed Brandy her dinner, in comes three people from the Manson family, who are just simply out to kill someone. And things go very badly for them. Instead of the historical massacre that we all know about, all three of them are killed by Cliff, Rick, and Brandy, who Cliff is trained to attack on command. You don't know that until right there and then. And I saw this as Tarantino's way of taking that away from the Manson family. An alternate reality where a situation goes exactly the way that it should have. And this ending was extremely violent. I mean, I'm talking slasher film level brutality. I'm going to go on a limb and say that it's one of the best endings to a movie that I've ever seen. It's also incredibly funny. And on that note, there's quite a bit of humor here, really, especially via Rick and Cliff. In fact, I thought DiCaprio was fucking hilarious in this film. He's got the funniest lines, in my opinion. And I actually really just loved his performance overall. I'm not the biggest fan of Leonardo DiCaprio, but this is probably my favorite performance from him. He's really good. One of my favorite scenes is where his agent, played by Al Pacino, suggests that Rick take roles in Italian Western films. Have you ever seen an Italian Western film? They're fucking horrible. Brad Pitt is great as well, which should come as no surprise to anyone, really. There's a really controversial scene where he gets in a fight with Bruce Lee on a movie set and ends up just kicking Bruce Lee's ass. It's controversial because we all put Bruce on such a high pedestal, really, that he thought of, the thought of someone beating him up is basically blasphemy at this point. I guess his family was reportedly quite pissed off as well about this, and also the way he was portrayed, is very arrogant. I mean, I knew about this scene, and I thought it would rub me the wrong way too, but it actually really works because Cliff is just so goddamn likable. And there are other famous people here as well, like Steve McQueen and Charles Manson, as I kind of mentioned earlier. I actually wish Manson had a bigger part, though. You only see him a few times, and he only has like a few lines. You see his cult members quite a bit more than you actually see him. Another thing that I really loved was all of the set designs here. Oh my god, especially Tarantino's efforts to make modern LA look like 1960s LA. That had to have been quite a feat. I found myself really drawn to it, and kind of like I was fantasizing about what it must have been like to live there back then. So I completely loved this film. I watched it like a week ago, and I'm still thinking about it every single day. And that, to me, is the true sign of a great film, that was masterfully written and masterfully directed. And like with most movies I'm struggling to find things about it that I can criticize, so I'm not really going to bother with that too much. But I would agree that is something I need to work on a little bit more in the future. I'll get better at it. Or I won't. We'll see. Now, depending on your taste in movies, this might be a little bit long for you. Maybe you will think it meanders a little bit at times, because it does. But if you're a seasoned Tarantino fan, you'll feel right at home. Because as you will know, this man is an artist, and he is going to take his time to tell you his story. And whether you like his style or not, you know that everything he writes is meticulous and genuine. And it makes me sad that we are likely only going to get one more film from the man. So if you like character-driven stories, I think you will love this. I mean, Pitt and DiCaprio are hilarious. Margot Robbie is charming and infectious. Everyone is great here. If there's one thing Tarantino does well, it's getting performances out of his actors. And being, cast to star in one of his films, I would imagine is a compliment of the highest fucking order. I mean, I already want to watch this again, but instead I think I'll revisit stuff like Jackie Brown and The Hateful Eight first, and then maybe Reservoir Dogs. I'm going to quit yapping now, and I'm giving Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 10 out of 10, because it's incredible. Cheers, guys.